Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 17.4. White Light, Black Night. We are back. Sorry, if people are forgetting what day it is, I need to tell them. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's not the formatting at all, you fucking fraud.
I'm doing the format as you speak.
Well,
you should be grateful for the chance to see my work in progress.
Day 2. Atoy Muzazi ran for his life. There was no more dignified way to put it than that. Ignoring his wounds and ignoring his exhaustion, he pushed himself beyond his limits and fled. Thrusters blazed from his body, tinged red by his own flying blood, as he flew through the skeletal city ring. As he flew, he left behind an exhaust trail of his evaporated sweat, carving a path through the air. He understood that he might bring about his own death through how hard he was pushing himself right now. Even so, that would be preferable to the sort of death that One Star had to offer. That man had a reputation. The Supreme before Cadman, Henry the Glutton, had assembled a stable of madmen and degenerates to enforce his will and share in his revelries, and formally dubbed the Kitchen. While the only true requirement for membership had been to pique Henry's interest, a hierarchy of strength had naturally developed. At the top of the Kitchen had been those strong enough to impose their vile predilections upon the world around them, those that were called the sous chefs, God Trash, Terminal Verdict, Clown Gut, and One Star. His crimes were unspeakable and uncountable. More partner than subordinate, One Star had been at Henry's side for the most depraved days of his reign. Many members of the Kitchen had been hunted down in vengeance after Henry's death, and common wisdom was that One Star had been among them, executed by his victims and buried in a nameless grave. But no, if this man spoke true, then even such dark justice had been denied. One Star had been here on Ner Mut, serving the director of the Pandershi Foundation. So Atoy Muzazi ran. Atoy Muzazi flew like a desperate bird. He'd accepted the fact of his death many times before, but he would not die like this. He wouldn't let himself fall into the hands of this demon. He wouldn't... My, chuckled One Star. You are very fast. Before Muzazi could even turn his head to look, he'd been struck, the flat side of One Star's blade slamming into his face and spiking him into a neighboring building. Dust exploded out of each and every empty window frame, evacuated by the sudden impact. One Star sheathed his sword, walking casually towards the ruined building. You have a splendid reputation, sir, he said as he approached. Therefore, I would be surprised if my strike just now is fatal. I know I said the director wished you dead, but he's not an unreasonable man. Should you surrender, I'm sure we can plead your case together. What say you? Muzazi said nothing. Instead, he blasted right out of the building again, breaking through the other side and out into the night. No matter how fast One Star was, Atoy Muzazi had never heard any anecdotes of the man being able to fly. If he simply gained enough altitude, he should be able to... The building exploded. There was no fire, no smoke. 1 second the building was intact, and in the next it simply burst, flung apart into debris. Muzazi was immediately knocked out of his flight path as massive chunks of rubble crashed right into him. The world became a blur as his thrusters sent him into a tailspin. For a moment, he struggled to reclaim control, but that had been a moment too long. One Star was coming for him. It didn't matter that One Star couldn't fly. In that horrifying moment, Muzazi looked on as the knight leapt from rubble to rubble, ascending into the sky on a stairway to heaven. He moved with such swiftness and skill that it was as if this split-second arrangement of concrete chunks was an obstacle course he had cleared many times before. Within seconds, he was upon Muzazi, leaping above him. This time, he didn't even bother drawing his sword. One Star slammed his shield down into Muzazi's torso, launching him far down to the ground below. A pillar of smoke marked his impact. No time for pain, Muzazi begged himself. Get up! Get away! He wasn't lacking in resolve, but when he tried to rise to his feet once more, he found that he was unable. No matter how much he strained and twisted, his body wouldn't do as he said. His hand remained flat on the ground beside him, and his feet refused to rise. His breathing quickened. Something was wrong. This wasn't just exhaustion or injury. It was like he was being held down by a powerful magnet. That was when he saw it. All around him, all around this patch of ground he'd been slammed into, was the faint buzz of pale blue aether. That same aether twitched across Muzazi's limbs. He already got me. You infused your back to protect you from the impact, One Star's kindly voice echoed throughout the courtyard. But because of that, I think you neglected your limbs a little. The infusion I planted here beforehand was able to take advantage of that. Muzazi strained against the invisible force. Just as One Star said, he was able to lift his back off the ground, but his limbs simply wouldn't follow. All he could do was squirm. He was a rat in a trap. One Star emerged out of the darkness, his peaceful face with eyes still closed like something out of a nightmare. He'd put his shield back on his hip. There was no further need for it, and drawn his sword once more. The blade scraped against the ground as he approached. "My ability isn't much to boast about," he explained calmly. "It's a simple power that sticks objects together. In situations like this, though, it can be quite useful." "Radiant ablaze!" A wall of radiance appeared between Muzazi and One Star, but with a swing of One Star's sword they were reduced to specks of light. "I see you're still quite belligerent," One Star sighed. "I urge you to consider my earlier offer, sir. There's no need for further violence or suffering." "You say that," Muzazi said, forcing his head off the ground to glare at his opponent, "yet you're the one approaching me with sword drawn." "Why," One Star smiled, "that's simply to cut you free once you surrender." "Liar! Liar, 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 liar! I know what that sword is for!" "You became rather agitated once you heard my name," One Star continued casually. "I'm guessing you've heard of my reputation, then? That saddens me. I think you've misunderstood things a little. I won't deny that my past is quite sordid, but can't a man do his best to seek redemption? I'm not the same man I was back then, I assure you, sir." Muzazi struggled as One Star slowly approached, his footsteps echoing through the courtyard. Click, click, click. He was taking his time. The fact that he was taking his time told Muzazi all that he needed to know. But even with One Star taking his time, it didn't take him forever. Within moments he was standing over Muzazi, silver sword in hand. The calm smile hadn't faded from his lips. "Alas," One Star said, "it seems you're not willing to surrender to me. As a warrior, perhaps that's the best decision, but it still saddens me. Human life is such a precious thing, after all." He lifted his sword high. "Kill yourself with a radiant, now!" Only to be interrupted before he could bring it down on Muzazi's forearm. A dolphin leapt out of the earth. The shining blue animal, almost certainly some kind of aether construct, was the size of a truck, writhing playfully as it flew through the air. It flipped end over end, high-pitched squeaks pouring from its very being, before it came down. One Star leapt back warily as the dolphin descended, colliding with Muzazi's body with force that surely should have reduced him to paste. However, when the blue light cleared, both the toy Muzazi and the grand dolphin had disappeared. All that remained were the sight of crackling blue aether and the fading sound of popping bubbles. One Star frowned, pulling his sword free and smoothly sheathing it. "Oh," he said softly. "How strange. Did he just get rescued by Capricorn Dragon?" It is crackling blue dolphin?
Interesting.
Alright. Why don't you read for a little bit, reader boy?
Roof kept low as she followed the girl, the unconscious body of Rayanch Patel still slung over her shoulder. "Where are we going?" she hissed. The girl looked back at her, brown eyes wide, holding a lantern in her hand. Despite the fact that she was Roof's rescuer, she was the one who seemed more frightened. In that Neverwire smoke, she'd rushed Roof along so much that she almost hadn't been able to grab Rayanch before following him to a nearby hatch. Now that Roof got a good proper look at her, though, this girl was younger than she'd thought. Young enough that it was embarrassing to be saved by her. She couldn't be more than 16 at the most. "Somewhere safe," the girl began before correcting herself. "Safer. I don't know who those guys were, but they're dangerous. They probably work for Pandershi. We need to get far away." "My friend's still out there," Roof protested. "I can't just leave him." Was Atoy Muzazi her friend? The word didn't fit quite right, but she didn't know what else to call him. The girl took a deep breath, turning away from Roof. "He was still there when One Star showed up?" Roof furrowed her brow. "Who?" "The guy on the bike." "Yeah?" Another deep breath. "If he's lucky, he's dead. We need to keep moving. I'm sorry."
What does One Star do, bro? What the fuck could he possibly do? He has the sticky power.
He's Satan's greatest soldier.
What does he do, bro? Are you gonna tell me?
No.
What the fuck?
Roof didn't believe for a second that Atoy Muzazi would die that easily, but she couldn't exactly go back to check on him either. The whole point of him staying behind had been so that Roof could escape with Rayanch Patel. Besides, there are so many weirdos out there right now, there was no way Roof would make it back unscathed. So, for the time being, she'd play along. She ran a hand along the wall of the cramped tunnel they were moving through. It was small enough that you had to go through single file. Hell, she had to be careful not to smack Patel's head against the wall as she walked. A couple of times now, the tunnels had branched off, but the girl had known which way to go, without hesitation. What is this place? Ruth asked, frowning. Spy tunnels, the girl replied. The secret police used them to get around the city, back when the foremen were in charge. Who? Ruth asked again. The guys who were in charge before Pandershi, the girl replied quickly, exasperated. Look, I don't want to be an asshole, but can you not be so loud? Someone might hear us above. Nah, Ruth said. I already did a ping up there. There's nobody around apart from us. The girl looked back at Ruth over her shoulder, her thoughtful expression illuminated by the orange light of her lantern. You're an Aether user? Ruth nodded. You're not? The girl shook her head. All the Aether users around here work for Pandershi. I've only ever met one who didn't, apart from you. How did you get here? I didn't see any ships coming in. Did you use the lovers? You sure know a lot, Ruth frowned. Not by choice, the girl muttered. Look, Ruth said, you helped me out. I'm real grateful, and I'm happy to tell you whatever you want to know, but I need some questions answering too. Who are you? Where are we going? After a moment's trepidation, the girl replied. My name's Hazley, she said. We're going to Ward 8. It's the only place in Zepan where nobody goes. Ever. Sorry, I think I put a name before I should have.
Fixed. Hazley?
Okay, Ruth said slowly. Why? She meant to ask why nobody went to Ward 8, but Hazley seemed to think she'd been asking why they were going there in the first place. For the moment, the girl frowned. Surely it being empty was reason enough. Before she took another deep breath, found another answer, and spoke it aloud. I want you to help me kill Zephyr Pandershi, Hazley said. So ungrateful, the gratitude locks would not open for her.
It's fucked up.
Would you like to take back over?
Yeah. Give me 1 second real fast if you can. Can you do that?
Yeah, I'll hold one star off.
Audience busy?
Go.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Alright.
Would you like some tea and cookies? I'm going to get out of here.
They're going to kill me, please. Oh. Alright. Why, 1 star, Zephyr Pandershi said, putting a hand on her hip. You're uncharacteristically empty-handed. 1 star looked up as he ascended the great staircase into the Fortress Oberon. The main headquarters of the Pandershi Foundation was only accessible through the grand antechamber that was Ward 1, and this grand staircase, which from the bottom seemed to stretch up into infinity, made quite the impression on the citizens there. It was the dream of every Ward 1 resident to be invited into Oberon, perhaps to join the Seelie Rangers and make that climb themselves. Those same Seelie Rangers stood guard along the stairway, 2 on each 5th step, forming a corridor of human bodies. They were clad in suits of white spandex, with bug-like helmets covering their head, their military stances exact in their perfection. Those Aether users that developed naturally on Nermut were invited to join the Seelie Rangers, the bulk of the Pandershi Foundation's military force, and trained to perfection in martial arts and weapons usage. From the moment they began their grueling training, the glory of the Pandershi Foundation was drilled into them. They fought with perfect loyalty to Zepan, and they fought with perfect faith in their director. For them, it was no doubt the ultimate honor to be posted along the esteemed staircase like this. For 1 star, however, this was simply his commute. He liked taking the stairs rather than the hidden elevator. There was something mythic about striding up the steps to the huge doors, cloak swishing behind him, which he quite enjoyed. Pandershi clearly knew that, too, hence why she'd been waiting here for him. The director had appeared in one of her younger forms here, a girl with puffy white and orange pigtails. She raised an eyebrow as 1 star approached. He stopped before he reached the top of the staircase, so they were at eye level. Alas, he said, things didn't go quite as I expected. It wasn't the variants that had attacked the transport, but rather Mr. Atoy Muzazi. I engaged him, but he managed to escape. Pandershi frowned. Escape how? Why, he disappeared right in front of me. Some sort of ability, no doubt. A dolphin was involved. I searched the area, but he was nowhere to be found. Pandershi sighed, putting a hand against her forehead. It's not ideal to have that man running around causing trouble. I was hoping he'd die quickly and I wouldn't have to factor him in for future decisions. I'm sure your decisions will be correct all the same, 1 star said kindly. That's why you're our director, after all. He reached over and patted the extension before him on the head. If that bothered Pandershi, she didn't show it. She just put her knuckles to her mouth, deep in thought. 1 star only withdrew his hand when he saw that they weren't alone here. Oh my, he chuckled. Now there's a nostalgic sight. Nain drifted out from behind a pillar, a matching smile already on his face. He was quite the novelty in Oberon. In this shining palace of white, the sheer blackness of his hair and eyes and cloak made him seem like a living ink stain. Before the great doors of Oberon, Nain was the only shadow. "Wow," Nain replied cheerfully. "Of all the places to find my former instructor. I expected you'd look much older by now." Indeed, as Henry the Glutton's right hand, One Star had been a constant presence on the Shishanaga, although the vibes he'd given off had been much different back then. Among others, he'd also served as a combat instructor for several of Henry's children, Layman and Crate and Nain, and so many more. Nain liked to think he'd advanced beyond mere swordsmanship at this point, but One Star's teachings had certainly formed the foundation of his combat skills. And now here he stood before Nain again, and just like Nain, he hadn't aged a day. In fact, he probably looked younger than he had during his time as a sous chef. The only sign of his advanced age would probably be those hands he kept hidden under gloves. Nain suppressed a smirk at the thought of the haggard claws. "I could say the same for you," One Star mirrored his cheer. "I have the director's anti-aging surgery to thank for that, but I don't believe that's the case for you, is it, sir?" "The thought of someone else poking around in my body gives me the shivers," Nain put a hand over his heart. "So I do all the poking around personally. I basically have all the benefits of being a corpse and a living person combined at this point. It's so cool." "Well, I hope you being like that hasn't dulled your sword skills," One Star replied. "I took such care teaching you, after all. Your father would be saddened." "Okay," Pandershi scowled, her eyes flicking towards One Star's lowered hand. "Yes, you know each other. We're all aware." Pandershi's face was sour as she looked between Nain and One Star. Both of them had dealt with her enough to know that she became anxious and unhappy when she was not the subject of a conversation, or at the very least was the one dictating the subject. When Zephyr Pandershi was among others, all those others must orbit her. Anything else would invite her irritation, and to persist with that irritation would invite retribution later, whether passive-aggressive or just plain aggressive. Both Nain and One Star knew well how to deal with that quirk of personality. "Well, a reunion like this is only possible because of your own eye for talent, haha," Nain smiled. "Did you learn about me through One Star, or was it the other way around?" Pandershi smirked, waving a hand. "Nonsense! I learned about both of you at the same time. I don't do my research piecemeal. One Star has been in my employ for a long while, and then once you escaped the Shishanaga, I judged it was the ideal time to make contact." "Ah, I see!" Nain clapped his hands. "How prudent!" "It's saddening that the intruders were able to evade capture," One Star said as the three of them walked through the great doors into Oberon proper. "But there are greater labors before us still. Tell me, ma'am, have we made any progress in locating the Sagittarius?" "The exterior cameras tracked each Aether signature as they went flying," Pandershi explained with relish, walking at the front of the pack. "We've been tracking down the variants one by one and confirming their characteristics. It's only a matter of time until the Sagittarius is located. I'm gonna guess we're not getting Dragon's backstory, are we?" "I don't want to be a nag," Nain said, Black Cloak dragging along the white floor behind him. "But how much time do we really have to search? Once we capture the Sagittarius, you'll need to finish analyzing it, and then I'll need to go through the construction process. That could take a good little while. Meanwhile, the UAP and Supremacy will be doing their best to get here as quickly as possible. I'm thinking we might get interrupted, no?" Pandershi dismissed his concerns with another wave of her hand. "The early warning systems will tell us when any light point-equipped ship is one jump away, and Z-Pan's shielding can withstand a siege for weeks. It doesn't matter who shows up or how many people they bring. They simply can't do anything in time." "Splendid," One Star said. "Preparations are well in hand, as you've just heard, sir. The birth of a new god has become an inevitability." "That's your wish too, One Star?" Nain cocked his head. "What do you get out of it?" "As a knight, the wishes of my liege lord are my wishes too," One Star replied calmly. "I can think of nothing better than the fruition of his grand dreams." When Pandershi spoke next, even though it sounded like another response to Nain's earlier qualms, it was clear that she was laying out the future for herself more than anyone else. "We will acquire the Sagittarius in due time," she said, voice low. "We will acquire its essence in due time. We will replicate its being in due time. In due time, in due time, in due time. We will be victorious. We're already victorious. There isn't anything anyone can do anymore. We simply have to wait." She smiled. and let everything fall into our hands. Popcorn.
His mind existed on the edge, the moment before the drawn-out end, a sword coming down. His heartbeat dancing in agony, a sword coming down. Dying! Dying! He was dying! Musashi woke with a start, his sharp gasp like a gunshot in the confined space. His body was covered in sweat and aching from what he'd put it through, but he noticed immediately someone had already applied fresh bandages. He looked around wildly. It seemed he was in the basement of some building, probably still within the city ring. He imagined Zepan proper would be more advanced than this dusty old place. A makeshift bed of torn curtains and towels had been made on the floor beneath him even, and, above, a single light bulb weakly flickered. Steadying his breathing, as he put a hand to his head, that was when he heard it. Bad dreams? You passed out from your injury, so I wasn't sure how long you'd be out. At any rate, welcome back to the world of the living. That voice. Slowly, Musashi turned to look at the person who had spoken. Dragon. Hadrian.
Ooh.
He looked different from the last time Musashi had seen him. Rather than the white cloak he'd worn as Supreme, he was wearing a black Cossack with a white band around his neck, white band around the neck. More than that, though, he'd clearly been injured. One of his eyes was covered by a large black eye patch with a silver design like a dolphin gleaming over it. That in itself was strange. Given Hadrian's regeneration, it should have been impossible for him to suffer an injury that required an eye patch long term. Of course, Musashi wasn't thinking of any of that. He wasn't thinking about anything at all. All he was doing was acting. He moved without hesitation. The toy Musashi ignited his radiant and threw himself out of the bed in an instant, and before he could do so much as blink, he was holding Dragon Hadrian up against the wall by the throat, light blade ready to sever his head from his body. Hadrian looked right back at him, blue eye wide in shock. Any last words? Musashi growled, voice low. Hadrian's eye flicked down towards the blade of light that could end his life with just the slightest movement. I take it we don't get along? He replied quietly. Musashi felt his blood boil. It was a miracle he didn't push the blade in then and there. After all of this, after everything that had happened, this bastard was making jokes. Hadrian kept speaking, though. Listen, he said slowly, lifting his hand in surrender. I know this must sound unbelievable, but I'm not the Dragon Hadrian you know. The name I've taken is Brother Worm. I'm part of the final church, Superbian branch. I even have ID if you'd let me get it. Not a chance. Musashi's voice was murderously quiet. Okay. Hadrian lifted his fingers pulsatingly.
Was Musashi not there for the other three Dragons?
No, that was when Ruth ran away.
Oh, damn.
So this is the first other Dragon he's seeing.
Well, this is definitely not Capricorn Dragon. This is Holy Dragon.
It was only then that Musashi registered the eye patch on the man's face and considered the implications. His scowl softened into a mere frown, and his radiant agent moved just a tiniest bit further away from Hadrian's neck. It could barely even be called relenting, and yet he cursed himself for it all the same. Still far too naive, a toy Musashi. Start explaining things then, Brother Worm, Musashi demanded, and pray that I believe you. Popcorn.
We're here, said Hazley, opening the hatch above and climbing up and out of sight. At some point during their expedition through the bowels of Nermut, they'd moved out of the old spy tunnels and into what seemed to be the maintenance network for Zepan. It made sense that such a sealed environment would need a way to quickly get around to repair systems, but it seemed like whoever performed those tasks were probably automatics, considering how cramped the tunnels still were. Ruth followed up after the scrawny girl, climbing the ladder. So, she called upwards, this is Ward 8? That's right! Hazley's voice echoed downwards. It seemed like she wasn't concerned about making noise anymore. Her shadow was peeled away from Ruth's face as she climbed through a door at the top of the ladder. Ruth followed a moment later and almost wished she hadn't. The place beyond Ward 8 was darker than she could have ever believed. It was even worse than the eternal night outside Zepan. Here it was more like the sky itself had disappeared. Without the lantern Hazley was holding and a few string lights Ruth could see here and there, they would have been in complete darkness. Eerily enough, the few things Ruth could see as they walked, plastic, prefabricated buildings and shiny, smooth streets, were absolutely pristine. There was no damage, no decay. It was as if one day someone had just turned out the lights and everyone had vanished. A shiver went down her spine. What happened here? Ruth almost asked that, but she thought better of it. Because, when she'd looked down at the same moment, she'd seen the telltale dark red crust. She'd seen it enough times to know what dried blood looked like. The more she looked, the more she found. Old puddles drifting past again and again as they walked down the hollow streets. Puddles, rivers, an ocean of dried blood creeping out of the darkness. Ruth swallowed as she looked out at the sea of crimson stains, and her nose twitched as it took in the stink of old death. There was no happy story here, so for now she didn't ask. She'd already heard enough unhappy stories to last a lifetime. Even if she had asked, though, Hazley would not have told her. The horror had long ago been hidden behind a wall inside her brain. But if Ruth Blaine had asked anyone else in Z-Pan, they surely would have told her. They would have told her of the deaths of countless men, women, and children. They would have told her of the single crime that 4 years ago reminded this planet what terror was. Yes, anyone in Z-Pan would have told her. They would have told her of the senseless massacre of Ward 8 at the hands of the demonic swordsman, Negan Rush. But that's impossible! We know who Negan Rush is!
He would never.
Permuzazi? Back then, why did I have to become the demonic swordsman?
I'm sorry, I was angry. That's no excuse.
I was very hungry at the moment. Alright, let's knock these out real quick because my food's on the way. We got some Aether questions.
Let's have our Aether questions.
Hell yes. Stift asks, how long is information stored in the Aether? Can I access stuff from 1,000 years ago today?
If you can get in someone's Aether, yeah, sure.
Was there information in the Aether before the first Aether unlock?
No.
Is every person known to Aether, while Aether is not necessarily known to every person?
I would say so, yes. But if you think you have Aether waiting for you, I would say. Just in case you ever unlock it.
Lan asks, why did tomfoolery get into the killing arts?
He was, it's his fighting style. He comes from a planet where it's a big cultural aspect, and he sort of naturally came into that sort of arena, and prior to becoming anything else, he was basically a martial artist.
Lan asks, when was Tolborn? I always imagined him to be like 50 or 60, but he was around for the OG Darkstar stuff, so he must be like 90.
You're right, 50 or 60. He was not around for the OG Darkstar stuff.
He was around for Kingdom Moon, though. How long ago was that?
That was quite a while ago, actually. Did I say he was around for Kingdom Moon?
Yeah, because he like talks about Cadman with reverence because he was like there during Kingdom Moon.
Oh, I thought that was the Drenell breaches.
He does that too, but he was like, because his whole thing is he's been with Cadman back when Cadman used to not suck as a person.
Oh yeah. Okay, well yeah, he's older than that then. Yeah, so. But he was not present for OG Darkstar stuff. I will say, he was even maybe around, but he wasn't present.
Lan asks, when will we learn more about the end of the Great Chain?
We may learn more. We might. To be honest, it's not a huge factor in the right now story, but we may at some point.
Rurum asks, is what Chizuru Un presents an accurate representation of her personality/inner appearance, or is the persona just for show?
I would say it's half her personality/inner appearance and half what she thinks people will respond well to.
Who's Chizuru Un again?
She was the Hatsune Miku minister.
Oh. Rockshark asks, if someone has a good enough understanding of Aether like Wu Ming, can they create hundreds of abilities like he can in a short amount of time, despite not having Rainbow Aether?
Yeah, so Wu Ming can do that because he is intuitively sort of... He just gets it. He doesn't have the Ultra SSR Aether that lets him do it or anything.
Blur asks, how much would it take to create a starship with an onboard light point like the ones we've seen in the series thus far? Is the only limiting factor just having enough money, or is it otherwise uniquely challenging to produce?
It's a massive feat of engineering. You need, like I said last time, I think I mentioned, you need to be like a big dog in the galaxy to like embark on a project like that.
But is it? He's saying like, is it a money thing, or is it like you need special epic resources?
It's a money thing and a resource thing, I would say.
Lan asks, has there ever been a Supreme that was essentially a puppet for a corporation or other organization, like Halcyon's Lan from Mare Loco?
Cario the Canny was acted as a puppet for various corporations as part of his bid to take revenge on them. He had like a Count of Monte Cristo thing going on.
Oh, that's fun. I like that.
Yeah, and then he betrayed them all and then got killed by Imperator 1, which may have been by design.
Rurum asks, what does Rakebone contribute to the UAP to earn a role in the Central Governing Council?
Anti-Aether technologies. They have a big... Because their whole culture is very anti-Aether.
They're the Neverwire, yeah.
Yeah. So they didn't make it, but they're probably the ones with the best of that.
And then finally, Lan asks, did Nine get his Skirnt genes from his dad or mom, or is he a throwback?
Henry was a Skirnt as well. He has the same, like, white skin, black hair, black eyes thing, and so do all his children.
Mm. Alright, well, thank you all for watching. Hey, maybe we'll even see you next time, huh?
Next time, there's no way we'll see them. They'll just leave like everyone else did.
Oh. Bye.
Bye.